All right, so get ready because today we're diving deep into the world of habit formation, like how companies use it to figure out what we're going to do next, and maybe even, nudge us in a certain direction.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty powerful stuff.
It is. Especially, when you think about how companies like Target are using it. You actually sent in some excerpts from a book about this. And let me tell you, this whole Target pregnancy prediction thing is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. It really shows you, like, how much we give away about ourselves just by, the things we buy every day.
Exactly. Like, even if we think we're being all sneaky.
Right. Yeah.
Target's got this whole system figured out. They call it a guest ID,
Hmm.
and they assign it to every single shopper. So every purchase you make, every coupon you use, every time you visit their website, it's all linked back to this, like, secret ID they have for you. It's like they're building this massive, I don't know, like a dossier almost of who you are and what you like.
And it's not just, what you buy at Target. I mean, they're pulling in data from all sorts of other companies, too. Demographics, job history, magazine subscriptions. I mean, the picture they put together is, well, it's pretty detailed.
Okay, now that's getting a little creepy.
It can be, yeah.
But as the point is, like the book explains, it's all about understanding our habits. Like those things we do automatically without even thinking about it. They drive so many of our decisions, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our brains are like wired for efficiency. And habits are a way to save energy. Think of it this way. Every habit you have, it's like freeing up space in your brain to focus on other stuff, more complicated things.
So you're saying when I reach for that same brand of cereal every week, it's not because I'm like consciously choosing it. It's just my brain on autopilot.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's where companies like Target, that's where they come in. They know if they can tap into that autopilot mode, they can, influence our decisions.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's smart marketing, right?
Totally.
But Target, I mean, they really took it to like a whole other level with this pregnancy prediction thing. Like the book talks about how they figured out how to identify pregnant shoppers before they even told anyone they were expecting.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. Pregnant women and new parents, they're like a gold mine for retailers.
How so?
Well, their shopping habits are changing, they're trying new things, they need a ton of new stuff,
Yeah, true.
and they're looking for brands they can trust. So if you're a company like Target and you can figure out who those shoppers are early on, well, you're way ahead of the game.
So how do they actually do it? The book mentions this statistician at Target, Andrew Pohl. He's like the mastermind behind this whole thing.
Right, right. He basically used the baby shower registry as like his testing ground.
So if he was looking for patterns in the things that expecting moms were buying.
Exactly. And he found that, certain combinations of products, they were strong indicators of pregnancy. Like if someone starts buying, say, unscented lotion, prenatal vitamins, washcloths, things like that.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. So it's not just one product, it's the combination.
Right. It's like a code almost.
Hmm.
And he found about 25 products that when you looked at them all together, it could not only predict pregnancy, but also, get this, estimated due date.
Really?
Yeah. And the accuracy it was surprisingly high. Pretty amazing, really.
Yeah, that is amazing. But is it, ethical? I mean, some people might say this is taking data analysis too far. Like, isn't this an invasion of privacy?
Well, that's a valid point. It's something to consider. But the book, focuses more on how clever the algorithm itself was and, how well it worked in spotting these patterns.
I guess that makes sense. So Target could use this info to send like coupons and ads to those soon-to-be moms at just the right time when they'd be most receptive.
Exactly. I mean, from a marketing perspective, it's pretty brilliant, right?
Yeah.
But of course, it does raise some, ethical questions.
Yeah, like the book mentions that story about the dad who freaked out when his teenage daughter started getting coupons for baby stuff from Target. He had no idea she was pregnant.
Right, right. That's I guess you could call it the creepiness factor,
Yeah.
when it feels like companies know more about us than we do.
Totally. And it really highlights like the need for transparency,
Right.
and giving people control over their own data.
Couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
But, companies can also use, like, more subtle ways to nudge us
Hmm.
without setting off those alarm bells. The book calls it the sandwiching technique.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hiding something unfamiliar within something that's familiar.
Oh, right, right.
Like, it reminds me of that thing during World War II where the government was trying to get Americans to eat organ meat,
Oh, yeah.
which, not exactly the most popular food.
Not at all.
But they knew people wouldn't be excited about eating liver and kidneys on their own.
Right.
So they hid them in things like meatloaf.
Clever.
And Target did something similar. They'd slip those baby product coupons into ads for things pregnant women probably wouldn't be buying, like lawnmowers, wine glasses, you know.
It's a way to tap into those existing habits without making people feel like, hey, wait a minute, they're targeting me. And as the book says, it's super effective, but it does make you think about, how much companies are influencing us without us even realizing it.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
something to be aware of, for sure. And it's not just happening in, retail, this kind of habit manipulation. It's everywhere. Even in the music we listen to. The book talks about how radio DJs use this same sandwiching technique to make new songs sound familiar.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Like you've heard them before.
So how does that work?
Well, imagine you're listening to the radio and the DJ just like throws on a brand new song out of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
And it sounds completely different from everything else they normally play.
Yeah, I'd probably change the station.
Exactly. So instead, they use sandwiching. They'll play that new song between two like super popular hits.
Oh, I see.
Songs that everyone knows and loves. So it creates this like sense of continuity, you know. And the new song doesn't seem as jarring. It's more like palatable.
That's sneaky. But I guess it works. I mean, I can definitely think of songs I didn't like at first, but then after hearing them on the radio a bunch of times, they kind of grew on me.
Yeah. It happens to the best of us.
So maybe I was being manipulated all along.
It's possible, yeah. But the thing is, this ability to influence habits, it's not inherently like good or bad.
Okay.
It depends on how it's used. Remember that YMCA example we talked about earlier?
Oh, right, with the social connections and encouraging exercise.
Yeah, that one. That's a great example of how understanding habit formation can be used to promote, positive change. They weren't tricking people into exercising.
Right.
They were tapping into this basic human need for connection
Yeah.
and using that to motivate people to adopt healthier habits.
That's really interesting. So it's not all about like getting us to buy more stuff. There's potential for like real good here.
Totally. And it can apply to so many things: healthcare, education, personal development. Like, imagine using these principles to help people quit smoking, manage their finances better, stick to a meditation practice. Possibilities are, kind of endless.
Whoa, okay, that's pretty amazing. But even if it's for a good cause, isn't this sandwiching thing still like manipulation? I mean, aren't you basically tricking people into doing something they wouldn't normally do?
Well, that's a valid question. And it gets into the, ethics of all this. But transparency is key. Like with the YMCA, they were upfront about, wanting to create a more social gym. They weren't hiding their intentions.
So it's like the difference between, I don't know, subtly nudging someone toward a healthy choice versus like flat out deceiving them.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between, influencing behavior and respecting people's autonomy.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
It is.
But going back to the bigger picture here, this idea that we can use this knowledge of habit formation for good, that's pretty exciting. I mean, think about like public health campaigns, right?
We could use these same principles to get people to get vaccinated, eat healthier, even just wash their hands more often.
Oh, absolutely. The potential is huge.
It's all about understanding those little triggers and rewards that, shape our behavior and then using them to our advantage.
Exactly. And it's not about controlling people. It's about, empowering them to make healthier choices for themselves.
This is seriously making me rethink, like, everything I thought I knew about habits. But it also makes me wonder, if companies can predict our shopping habits so accurately, what else might they be able to predict about our lives, And are we okay with that, with companies knowing that much about us?
Yes, that's a question that, goes way beyond Target. It touches on like data collection, artificial intelligence, privacy in the digital age. It's a conversation we, like, as a society, need to be having.
Yeah, it's a big one. And honestly, kind of a scary one.
A little bit, yeah.
But at least this deep dive is making us more aware.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Awareness is the first step. It's about being informed, thinking critically, taking an active role in shaping the world around us. We don't have to just be like passive bystanders in this whole data-driven age.
So what can we do? Is there any way to like push back against this kind of manipulation, even if it is, for a good cause?
I think it starts with educating ourselves. The more we understand how these systems work, the better we are at, spotting them and resisting them.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. And we need to push for more transparency, more control over our own data. We have a right to know how our information is being collected, used, shared.
Couldn't agree more. It feels like we're just like scratching the surface here.
We are, yeah.
There's so much more to explore, but before we get too deep into the ethics of all this, I'm curious to hear more about, your thoughts on this sandwiching technique.
Okay, well, there's this one example from the book that I think really shows how powerful this approach can be. It takes us back to Target, but this time, it's not about pregnancy prediction.
Mm.
It's about, well, let's just say it involves a very popular song and a very clever marketing strategy. It's funny how these same ideas, they pop up in other places too, not just shopping. The book actually has this whole section on the music industry, specifically like radio stations.
Oh, yeah. They were talking about how radio DJs use that sandwiching trick, too, to make new songs sound familiar.
Exactly. It's all about like easing listeners into new territory. If a DJ just suddenly played a brand new song, completely different from anything they normally play, well,
People will be like, nope, not for me.
yeah, they'd probably change the station. So instead, they use this sandwiching method, play a new song between two super popular hits. Songs that are already like in heavy rotation.
So it's like, oh, this new song, it's just like those other ones I love.
Right. It creates this like flow, makes the new song feel less, I don't know, jarring, more palatable.
It's sneaky, but I guess it's effective. I mean, I can think of songs I wasn't really into at first, but then after hearing them on the radio a bunch, they kind of grew on me.
Yeah, it happens.
So maybe I was being like low-key brainwashed this whole time.
It's possible. But here's the thing, though. This whole idea of influencing habits, it's not always a bad thing.
Okay.
It really depends on, how it's used. Remember that YMCA example?
Oh, right, with the social connections at the gym to
Right.
get people to exercise more.
Exactly. That's a perfect example of how understanding habit formation can actually be used for good. They weren't trying to like trick people into exercising. They were
Yeah.
tapping into this like basic human desire for connection and belonging and using that to help people develop healthier habits.
That's a good point. So it's not all about, just getting us to buy more stuff. There's potential for like real positive change here.
Oh, totally. And
Yeah.
it could apply to so many things: healthcare, education, personal development. I mean, imagine if we could use these same principles to help people like quit smoking or manage their money better or even stick to a medication practice.
Whoa, okay. That's pretty powerful.
Right. The possibilities are huge.
They are. But even if it's for a good cause, this whole sandwiching thing, doesn't it still feel a little, I don't know, manipulative? Like, aren't you still kind of tricking people into doing something they wouldn't normally do?
Well, it's a valid question. And that's where the ethics of all this come in. But transparency is important,
Yeah.
Like with the YMCA, they were very open about wanting to make their gym more social. They weren't hiding their intentions.
So it's like the difference between, I don't know, gently nudging someone towards a healthier choice
Yeah.
versus like straight up lying to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that balance. Influencing behavior while still respecting people's like right to choose.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
It is.
But, okay, stepping back for a sec, this whole idea that we can use habit formation for good, that's pretty exciting. I mean, think about all the potential for, like, public health campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could encourage people to get vaccinated, eat healthier, even just wash their hands more.
Exactly. I mean, the potential impact is huge.
It really is. And it all comes down to understanding those little triggers and rewards that shape our behavior and then figuring out how to use them to our advantage.
Exactly. It's not about controlling people. It's about giving them the tools they need to make healthier choices.
This is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about habits. But it also kind of makes me nervous. If companies can predict our shopping habits so well, what else could they predict? About us, about our lives? Like, is there anything that's, like, off limits?
That's a question that, goes way beyond just Target and touches on data collection, AI, the whole idea of privacy in this digital age. It's a conversation we as a society need to be having.
It's a big one. And honestly, it's a little bit scary.
Yeah, for sure.
But at least this whole deep dive is making us more aware of it. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Awareness is the first step. It's about being informed, thinking critically, and being active participants in shaping the world around us. We don't have to just sit back and let this data-driven world happen to us.
So what can we do? Like, is there anything we can actually do to push back against this kind of manipulation, even if it is for a good cause?
I think it starts with, education. The more we understand how these systems work, the better we are at recognizing them and, resisting them when we need to.
So knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need to demand more transparency, more control over our own data. We have a right to know how our information is being collected, used, shared.
Absolutely. It feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so much more to explore. But before we get too deep into the ethics of all this, I'm kind of curious to hear your take on this whole sandwiching technique.
Well, there's this one example from the book that really illustrates how powerful it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes us back to Target. But this time, it's not about pregnancy prediction.
Oh, what is it about?
It's about, well, let's just say it involves a really popular song and a very clever marketing strategy.
Okay, now I gotta know. What's this about Target and a popular song?
Well, the book uses this example. The song Hey Ya by Outkast. You know that one.
Of course. Hey, yeah. That was a massive hit. Everyone was singing it.
Exactly. That's the point. When it first came out, a lot of radio stations, they weren't sure about playing it.
Really? Why not? It's such a catchy song.
Yeah, but it was different, like
Yeah.
really different from Outkast's other stuff. Yeah. And it didn't really fit into any of the usual radio formats. It was a risk.
So how did it become so popular then, if radio stations weren't playing it at first?
Well, they used sandwiching.
Ah, okay, I see where you're going with this.
They started playing Hey Ya in between two other really popular songs that were already getting a ton of airplay.
Songs that people already knew and loved.
Right, so Hey Ya didn't sound as weird. It kind of snuck in there.
That's pretty clever.
It is. And because it was surrounded by those familiar songs, people were more likely to give it a chance. And pretty soon, they were hooked.
Wow, that's subtle but effective. It really makes you think about how, like, our musical tastes are formed. We hear something enough times, we start to like it.
Exactly. It's habit formation in action. The more we're exposed to something, the more familiar it becomes, and the more likely we are to enjoy it.
So basically, those radio DJs were, like, programming our brains to, like,
In a way, yeah. They were tapping into that natural human tendency to form habits and using it to make that song a hit.
That's kind of freaky when you think about it. Makes you wonder what else is being, like, subtly influenced in our lives without us even realizing it.
It's a good question to ask, and it brings us back to what we've been talking about this whole time. Awareness. Yeah. You know, the more we understand about these forces at play, the better equipped we are to make our own choices about how we want to live our lives.
You know what? I'm with you on that. So knowing all this now, how do you feel about those diaper coupons in your mailbox? See them a little differently.
Honestly, for me, it's not really about the coupons themselves. It's about being aware of the bigger picture. You know, Target's not some evil corporation trying to trick us. They're using data and algorithms to figure out what we need.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But it's still a little weird, you know, knowing how much they know about us, even if they're not always using it in a creepy way.
For sure. And that's exactly why these conversations are so important. And we need to be talking about data privacy, ethical marketing, how all this technology is impacting our lives.
Agreed. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all this?
I think it's this. We have more power than we think. We don't have to just be passive consumers, you know, blindly following whatever path these algorithms lay out for us. We can be informed, we can be mindful, we can make our own choices about our habits, and ultimately about our lives.
That's a great point. It's empowering to know we have that control. So to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about, maybe even inspired you to pay a little more attention to how your own habits are being shaped.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand these systems, the better you'll be at navigating them.
Absolutely. And as always, we love hearing from you. So if this deep dive sparked any thoughts, any reflections, come share them with us on social media.
Yeah, let's keep this conversation going.
All right, that's a wrap for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and happy habit hacking.